GM. It's Thursday, and we have some action this week in NFTs. We'll be talking about the low cap projects and how they've been pretty successful this week. OpenSea had its top volume in a little while, so we'll talk about that and maybe rip some packs later. All right, Tyler. So I saw your tweet this morning, put out from OpenSea. We had a good day as far as volume goes. Obviously, Ethereum is at its highest price it's been for a little bit, but what do you think about this OpenSea volume? It's back to trending up, I guess you could word it that way. There was this little tweet battle between Magic Eden and OpenSea yesterday as well. But yeah, what do you make of this uptick in volume yesterday?
Ooh, the NFT bulls are back. We're up only, baby. No, it's just amazing how quickly like tides and sentiments can shift in the space. I mean, I remember just Monday, like writing the weekly preview, and like things were still just so bearish, especially in the PFP space. And the PFP space still looks pretty bad, especially in the mid tier. But volume is here. We had the highest day in 2 months yesterday, closing in at like 25.5 million. It's crazy to me to be so excited for 25.5, but it feels so much more than like the 15 million we were doing every day through most of July and early August. And yeah, I mean, it's the biggest number we've had since early June. And that's not even counting. This is just the OpenSea number. So this isn't counting X2Y2, which is doing a decent amount of revenue, especially on the newer sets where most of the traders and flippers are. And then the pseudo swap pools aren't included in this. They're doing a decent amount of volume as well. So we're definitely tricking back up. You know, is 25 million a day bull market? Absolutely not. Like our old threshold was 100 million. I don't know if we're going to get back to 100 million a day anytime soon. But I think if we were getting back to like 50 million, we'd feel pretty damn good about that. But hey, you know, any positive news right now, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, even in this chart, like the only days that are above 50 are the first 2 days in the chart. So, I mean, you look at this in a week, it's going to look a lot flatter overall, but none of those days really only over 40. Yeah, I note that a lot of people were pretty bullish about this idea of NFT NYC, and yesterday was the top day in US dollars since NFT NYC, because that was back in mid-June was the last time we were over this 20 million, significantly enough. But yeah, I think that it's just a good indicator of, just as you're mentioning, people sentiment-wise seem to be a little happier with it. With the merge coming up, obviously coins have been doing a lot better recently. So when you look at like the number of NFTs sold, it might look different. But then the other thing is this Ethereum. I don't know how you'd word it. The ratio of Ethereum to Bitcoin is closing in. I guess that's how you would say it. It's becoming Ethereum in this run has been going up faster than Bitcoin. Obviously, it has a true indicator that is the reason behind that with this merge, and people really are trying to speculate on what will happen there. But yeah, this is a pretty telling chart.
Yeah, I mean, ETH Bitcoin is just absolutely ripping. So when the market capitulated, and this is a ratio that like we track. We've actually talked about a decent amount on the stream because there was a point in time where instead of trading your ETH for NFTs, it made sense to trade your ETH for Bitcoin. And the ratio got to like 18 to 1, 19 to 1 at the peak when ETH really bottomed around, 1,000 or below. It's 12.7 to 1 today when I ran the numbers, and it looks like 10 to 1 is inevitable, where just for 10 ETH you'll be able to trade that for a Bitcoin. So that feels significant. I feel like when that barrier hits, and he's Kaleo, one of the top crypto account that we follow, big name in CT, also getting into NFTs a bit now. He's kind of alluding to it here in the tweets, but like if we get to 10-1, who knows what happens then? Like that might be a capitulation event for some Bitcoin maxis.
Yeah.
And it could send it even more. And of course, like the main narrative here is the merge. Now we've got the date. September 15th to 16th is when this thing's going to happen. If they're, barring any major hiccups. So, I mean, it's going to be, that will become the main headline here for the next month is how to trade that event.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And this is one of the biggest just crypto events ever, really. And I think when it comes down to hopefully it goes smoothly, of course, that's going to have an impact on price. But also, is this going to be one of those big buy the rumor, sell the news events? Is this people buying into the rumor now? And then once that date comes, we go back towards 1,000 for ETH. I think a lot of people are going to be confused as far as what this means. Oh, what's the merge? Like you hear about the merge, but a lot of people don't really fully understand that. So, I mean, we'll talk about that over the next few weeks here in general. Basic idea is that they're moving from proof of work to proof of stake. It'll be more energy efficient. I think that's the big thing. One of the big comments people always have talking down Ethereum is how much energy it uses. And they're going to use a lot less energy here by doing proof of stake. So miners are, it would be kind of cool to have like a miner on and get their thoughts. Not that I know any of them, but I wonder if you've been a miner this long, and what are you going to do now? Like, are you just going to switch and start staking, and you earn way less probably? But it'll be interesting to see like that side of it. But yeah, I think long term it's pretty bullish on ETH that they're doing this. Gas prices obviously have been down over the past few months, but when there was this August 2021 run, I mean, you were spending hundreds of dollars just in gas fees to buy stuff. Now it's down to 10 or less for the most part. So we'll see how it affects things like gas prices as well. But it should long term be good for Ethereum.
Yeah, it should be good. I think most of the people in the space industry are pretty bullish on the event long term. Of course, the short term price action is likely going to be really volatile. And we're going to have a lot more content about what the merge is, what to expect, how to trade NFTs against it here in the next month. So excited to really start diving into that here in the coming weeks.
Yeah. So let's look a little on project rankings here, where CryptoPunk's still out there in the lead, which not too much of a surprise. Like there's still a decent amount of action, people buying into CryptoPunks. One merge event that people are going to talk about is with CryptoPunks. There's going to be the proof of work CryptoPunk. There's going to be the proof of stake CryptoPunk. And are people going to choose one over the other? My initial thought is the way that the V1 punks were handled means people are going to move to the proof of stake as the like one true punk, just because it's where everything else is going to be traded long term. And the other one is just like their copy of it that you could probably like just keep long term if you sell it on the proof of stake. But will any other projects you think have value or be touted as having value for being back on proof of work? I just think punks are the only ones that really can have that sort of narrative behind it. But not really sure.
Yeah, I think some will. So just for our listeners who may not be super in the weeds on the merge. So basically, really high level, what's going to happen is the Ethereum is going to switch from proof of work to proof of stake. All of our NFTs, all of our coins are going to be on the proof of stake network or blockchain. There's also going to be proof of work that's going to be maintained by the miners. At least that's everyone's theory right now. So what that means in practice is all of your NFTs that you have are going to be duplicated. And you're going to have a proof of stake version and a proof of work version. And for the most part, and the leading theory is the proof of stake will be the real NFT. That's where the value will be. That's where everyone will be trading, like Lou said. The question is, what's going to happen with these proof of work NFTs? And I think for most, they're just going to go straight to zero. They're going to be worthless. punks, I think, will hold some value. I think where things get interesting is like those that have like the true like early or first narrative, and like it makes me think like V1 punks. I actually think the proof of work version of those, which will be like the original, right? Like that might hold more value than the proof of stake version. But those cases are going to be few and far between. I think Bored Apes might hold some value. It's going to be really interesting, like in the art scene, in the art market, how like all these one-of-ones are essentially going to be duplicated. I think there's a lot of implications for like art owners. Like, are you going to sell off your proof of work? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to burn it so that it doesn't even exist anymore? So there's going to be a lot to unpack, but the punk market will be definitely in the spotlight ahead of that merge.
Yeah, I think it'll obviously be interesting to watch how that goes down. Like you said, I would expect people to go towards what our feature NFT is going to be and stick around that. You don't really want to, even though if there's two of them, you don't want to be switching back and forth between them the whole time. It's kind of like the thesis as to why OpenSea has stuck around as the number one for so long, even with complaints. Is it's just easier to have everything in one place. So I think that's going to be part of it. But yeah, let's go back to this board because it's an interesting board to me this week. One thing that you brought up earlier about the mid-range stuff, none of those are on here. It's basically just Yuga and new stuff outside of the crypto dick butts. But I mean, those are in their own right blue chips, so they probably are in the Yuga level anyway. But what's your thoughts on this board?
Yeah, so I got started from the bottom and working back up. I mean, the CloneX, Doodles, Azuki's. CloneX is 8, Doodles is 8.7, Azuki's below 8. It's at 7.88. It's just slow drip down.
Yeah.
It's red every week. It's just the same story. And again, there's really no catalyst on the forefront. I think it's pretty telling that punks and the Yuga eco they're basically chopping or maybe slightly down. And that's all with rising ETH. So in US dollar prices, these assets have actually had a really strong month. So ETH is up 70% on the month. So these assets are doing pretty well in USD terms, even if they're not in ETH terms. As for the new joiners, I don't think. I mean, Aliens we knew was going to be one of the big plays of the week, and we're gonna dive into more detail on them. You know, Webaverse, they did their English style auction for the rest of their NFTs. It didn't really go well. I think that bubble has now burst. I think they're going to kind of fade off into oblivion here. Potatoes has been like kind of surprisingly quiet this week. We are expecting staking.
Yeah.
There really hasn't been much news. There's been a few teasers from the team about these mutations. We've seen like donuts, cucumbers. There was another image that popped up today. I wasn't even sure what it was, but no concrete information. I think once we get that info, those will start to run a bit. But everything else has been kind of funneling to the hot new objects, and that's been 8lands and then Digis, the Digi Daigakus.
And those just revealed.
They have. I think it has to be classified as at least a somewhat bullish reveal here. Not full bullish, but not really that bearish. So this is the set. We kind of started talking about them on Tuesday's show. It's from this company, LimitBreak. They founded some major Web2 mobile games. They've got some big VC funding behind them for this new Web3 company. This is their first Genesis NFTs. Only 2,000 supply, which has definitely helped some of the market action. You can see it's the anime female character. You know, some of the earlier reactions was just like similar to Lives of Asuna. You know, in general, people seem to like the art. It's not bad. I don't think anyone's like going over the moon for the art style, but
the backgrounds are pretty busy.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be. We're not going to see these as PFPs, like popping up on Twitter. I don't think they're going to make great PFPs. You know, I don't know that wasn't really ever a huge part of the buy thesis. That's always a part of it in NFTs. That's just kind of what we think about. But I think overall, like we're expecting these to be characters in this game, or somehow tied, maybe from like utility aspect tied to LimitBreak in what they're doing. I think the risk there is, games take a very long time to develop. This team, if anyone who follows their Twitter, they've only got like 3,000. They've got like 2,000 followers, one follower per
like
NFT.
4 tweets.
Yeah, most of those tweets are today.
Yeah.
So like their communication has been near zero. It's been fine so far because there's been enough whales backing this to keep the price action going. But if they stop buying, I think it might be tough. But here we see kind of the reaction here from the reveal event. It's been kind of chopping between 1.6 and 2. It was a 2 week pre-reveal. Fell all the way to 1. There was some panicking, some WETH offer accepting. I was a part of that panic myself, unfortunately. Did not trade this one the best. Then it immediately got rebought back to like 1.7. Now it's kind of trending back down to 1.6. As we see, only 200 sales in the last day, 63 in the last hour. That's not super high volume, especially for a reveal event in the first hour. So there's not that much supply, but there's also not that much demand for this one. So I think it's probably going to trend down unless we see a lot more buyers coming in. But it's going to be one to watch. It definitely was a surprise headline for this week.
Yeah. I do think one of the big benefits for them is that low supply. Like we talk about this pretty much every week, but if this was a 10,000 project, the floor would be like 0.2 right now.
For sure.
It rises faster, but it can hold up faster because, like you said, if there are whales that are just holding this and there's only a few hundred that are being listed, then the just like chase to the bottom doesn't go as fast as when there's 2,000 people trying to list and undercut each other. So I think that's what has held up the price a decent amount for this. But yeah, this kind of popped up out of nowhere and there's not a ton of details. And that was the surprising part about this project, where a lot of people that were buying in the other day were saying, I don't even know what I just bought. That's a potentially more bearish indicator on this. But yeah, I mean, they have the backing of this, the game development. And yeah, like you said, I don't know if too many people are planning on using this for PFPs, but they are looking at it as the utility side of it, which is the bullish indicator. Like,
yeah, and
PFPs are behind right now.
One other like maybe risk red flag, I don't know what you want to call it. No rare sales on this. There's this one sale for 3. The rest of these were actually pre-reveal because the 4 got to 2.35. So that's not a great sign. Like when none of the rares are getting bought. For a utility set, maybe that doesn't matter. But even in the utility sets, like potatoes is primarily a utility set. We still see some big action on the rares, right? So I don't know. I don't really know how to take that. I'm surprised that some of the whales with the huge bags also aren't going after some of the rares. Like that's what I thought was likely going to happen. But I don't know, a bit of a confusing set. It'll be interesting to watch how this one goes.
Yeah, and I don't think there's like crazy rare looking ones, like the characteristics wise. Like if there's a golden one, there's these mythics that they probably are listed at 10 plus, right? So I think that could be part of it too, where like these are the rarest ones and none of them are even listed. So except that one for what's that, 40 ETH?
40, yeah.
So if that one were to get bought though at 40 ETH, that would start some movement, because there were some sweeps. There were some big sweeps of 20 plus ETH.
Yeah, some solid sweeps on these. Some whales have some big bags. Someone's got like 137. There's multiple accounts that have 40. With a set this small, that's a decent chunk. Fun fact: this one of the mythics. This one sold for 1.88. I want to say this sold like 5 minutes before reveal.
And it's listed as suspicious.
Oh no! Good luck getting the police report on that one. But yeah, so I think this sold literally like a minute before reveal. Maybe the person sniped it. Maybe that's
like it hadn't revealed yet on OS. Yeah, maybe. This is something that OpenSea came out with a little thread yesterday that we put more details on Lucky Trader on it, but their stolen items policy
Mhm.
basically, and I think the way that they're doing this now is going to be better.
Mhm.
Basically, they their statement was along the lines of it's illegal to buy stolen goods, so we're not going to just take this away. However, what they're going to do is if you care that much about your stolen good, go make a legit police report
Yeah.
within a week. And if you can't make that police report, that's how you see like this whole thread. This exact comment has 1,000 likes, 300 retweets. This is the bulk of it. But
Yep.
basically, yeah, you have the 7 days in order to file a police report that you have an actual stolen good. And once that's out there, they'll keep it flagged. If you ever were to recover your item, you can unflag it yourself. That's another feature they're going to add. Uh, and this just puts it more on the person who lost the item. It's better to do it this way because it's showing the legitimacy that you have this stolen. There's going to be less of these fake, oh, I'm going to report it because I sold it too low and I want it
Mhm.
back. There's going to be less of those this way. And just from like a structure and organization point of view, it's better for OpenSea because now they'll have all these records. They can refer back to it. They can put more of the heavy lifting on the police side of things on considering this stolen. They don't have to be the police as much anymore. So I thought it was a good change of policy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was a slam dunk move, much needed. Some solid communication on this. They've even already followed up on this. I think talking about how they're going to handle retroactively the ones that are already flagged. Actually, I missed the thread, so I don't know the ins and outs of that. But I think the major
Yeah.
problem that needed to be solved was kind of like these fake reportings or ones coming months after an event and someone buys an NFT, they've had it, and now it gets locked after 7 months. Like that issue should be resolved now, and hopefully only like the truly stolen suspicious assets are
Yeah.
are being locked, and that should be a much smaller percent. And then they actually tag MetaMask in this thread. MetaMask also doing their part, right? For anyone who's seen the updates, it's much more clear in plain English what approvals you are setting when you're signing
Yeah.
messages. And we're getting closer to a point where it's on you if you lose your assets. I mean, to a degree, it's always been that way, right? And of course, the the suspicious activity, the players out there who are they're getting more sophisticated, the ones who are trying to steal assets and all that. But the we're, these companies are trying to protect us. They're putting safeguards out there, and they're getting better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that when we look at this long term, we're going to think of this is the way we can get people to take their own responsibility, kind of like what you're saying. Like, if this is something that you care that much about that you lost and you want it back, you should be filing a police report just as if it was a stolen car. It's like some of these assets are worth probably more than your car. So you should be able to handle it the same way. Cam's saying our police reports decentralized. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that long term goes onto the blockchain. Um, it could be, but I did also get a comment outside of this chat in a DM that said that from a miner who said they're going to switch to mining Bitcoin after the merge. So continue to mine, but not ETH, just switch over to Bitcoin, which probably makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I know that there's a decent amount of competition in Bitcoin mining. There's all those like farms in China. I don't know if you ever seen some of the videos from them, but it's crazy out there. Some of those like factories, but cool. So then, were there any other projects on that list that you wanted to to touch on, there's the rare Pepe that's also newer, 8 liens, probably the one we want to talk about. That one was kind of wild yesterday. But were there any other ones before those?
Yeah, I want to dive in on those. Like rare Pepes, they got over 1. They're retracing now. I think that was mostly expected.
Yeah.
I think now becomes the real test if these have staying power or not, or if they just slowly trend back to zero. It always seemed like a pump and dump to me. I mean, it's a derivative project, right? Like we've never seen a derivative project do well.
And like a double derivative project because they're using the Pepes.
So tread carefully there. They're down. I do not view this as a good entry point. I think Moonbirds look like they may have bottomed. So it's been a terrible week for the Moonbirds. Tons of FUD. So the CCO announcement came out last week. They had their spaces. Floor plummeted to 15, bounced back to 17, slowly down all week. We were starting to see sales in the 13s, 12s, bot offers taken at 10 ETH. But the floor's back to 14. Have seen some steady and solid sales above that. Big announcement today was that Kevin Rose and the team are going to do a preview of the Future Proof conference, which is happening on August 30th, next Wednesday, the 17th. I think if one thing Kevin is good at, it's like reading the room and knowing when he needs to do something. And now is that time. And I think he recognized that. And I think there's a big announcement coming at Future Proof that's going to impact proof holders, Moonbirds holders. Obviously, we all hope it's bullish as holders, but hopefully the preview gets a little bit of intel as to what to expect, and maybe I think that's what started to rally the market a little bit.
Yeah, the best parts of NFTs are the announcements of announcements. That really hypes up the crowd. But I agree. I think it's to your point, like the day after CCO, he noticed that people were angry, and that's where he went and he's like, all right, we're going to do a spaces. I think he does recognize when people are against certain things or want to know more about certain things. And that's really why they do spaces as often as they do. I'd say one thing that I don't like about the spaces is I feel like they take too many questions from holders or just viewers in general. And a lot of those questions just turn into like self shills. Like people come on, the question is formulated as like, oh, Kevin always been a fan. I've been doing XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And they never get to a real question. So, yeah, I think that's one good thing that we could see coming up in the next week here. There's a couple different projects that'll be popping up next week, which I'm sure we'll cover on probably Monday there a little more in depth. But let's get into this 8 liens.
Yeah.
Because this one, less out of nowhere than Digis. I feel like I've been hearing about 8 liens and we never knew when it was going to come out for months. And then it came out. I think I had left the Discord by now. Pre-reveal still. So that's part of, I think, the reason why the floor holds up. We talked about this a little on Tuesday where it's more of an art project, but I think on Tuesday it was at 0.2 and it ran up to 0.8 or so. There were people, there was a pseudo swap pool created and it was that yesterday that it ran pretty hard?
Yes.
And like partially on Tuesday night. But yeah, yesterday it just kind of went off and it's retraced a little bit. But you can see that in the thickness of those lines, like it was by far the leader in volume. I think it was near 2000 ETH in volume, and the next IS was like in the 800s over that 24-hour span. So what's your thoughts here on 8 lien and why this one kind of has led the charge here?
Yeah, so I think they started their mint, what was it, like Sunday night or Monday morning, and they had 48 hours for their allow list, and the supply slowly came out. They got up to about half the supply, about 50%. And the market was like jumping between 0.2, 0.3. It was back to 0.2 ahead of the free public mint. which had been a little bit disappointing, and I was getting a little bit more bearish on the project at that point, but I was still paying attention, and I knew that the floor would likely dip on the public sale because another 5K supply was coming. Those minted, it was a stealth drop, free mint. People who were set up for botting did pretty well on this one. The floor immediately dumped to 0.1, gobbled up to 0.2 within minutes, and then it was up only for about 6 hours straight. It ran all the way to 0.8 at peak before kind of slowly retracing to 0.6 and then bouncing between 0.6 and 0.4 for most of the past like 12 to 18 hours or so. But a few things driving it. One, I think there's a lot of big names tied to this. There's some OG punk and more like crypto native folks who have a lot of rich and OG friends in this ecosystem. Barack Crimo, one of the best known top digital art collectors and just NFT collectors overall. He's an advisor. He tweeted this yesterday, kind of the principles, reasons behind 8land, CCO, free mint. I think this is a really big one. So there's no royalty, and because of that, like he coined this un-PFP, and what he meant by that is essentially there was no primary sales to the team, there's no royalties for secondary sales. So this is not your standard kind of cash grab where a team just wants market action to keep the money printer going. The only way this team gets paid is through the equity that they hold and the NFTs that they hold, which is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,400, I think. I'm not sure of the exact total. But it's definitely different from how punks and how apes are set up in that way. And, it seems like, at least from the previews of the art, people like the art. Yesterday, it seemed like every major account was touting or tweeting about these. Dudus was tweeting about these. I don't know. Too many to even count. But it seemed like everyone was in on the trade yesterday. Everyone was sweeping it. Saw accounts like Darren swept like 100, and that's what caused all like the crazy run up. But all eyes are going to be on this tomorrow. I don't know for sure if we know what time the reveal is going to be. But I think it's going to be the primary event. The one of ones and the rare lotto is going to be legit on this one. I think that's what has
Only
been
10
another
one of ones. Is that right?
I think it's 8, but I don't. Did they tell us the number? It's not.
They're all different artists, though.
They're all different artists. So Hackatal's doing one. I think there's a few surprises. They've let us know a few, and they've been giving us some previews that all look pretty sick. So Hackatal has one here. If we scroll down, I think there's a few more. Where are they higher? So Brian Brinkman, he has an Artbox project and a few other sets. This Emma Valup, I don't know her as much, but this piece looks pretty sick. Pinder Van Armen, who's an OG artist, he's doing one. Alpha Centauri Kid has got one. Grant Yoon does not. He's just a supporter. He said that he's not tied to the project. So unless that's just a total misdirection, I don't think we should expect one from him. But still, there's some huge names on this. I think some of those rare one-on-ones are going to go for 10 to 20 ETH. So that's going to keep the floor up. My gut is we're going to see that classic post-reveal dip, but it's going to get eaten up and then we're going to run. That's my hopium projection for this set. But I think a lot of people like it. There's really not that much else to trade. The Digi trade is over now, I think, for the near term. So this is going to dominate the weekend unless something else major happens.
Yeah. Can you click on the Grant Yoon one up on the top right there? Because as I thought it would be kind of cool if there was something like this as part of the collection as one of the one-on-ones. It's a little different than you normally see. And like I know that post about the non-PFP, un-PFP project, but I think to get one of these would have been kind of cool. So we'll see if he was just blowing smoke or if he's actually not connected to it. But yeah, I think that gives a lot more credit to the high-end ones. I think based off what you were saying, like we'll probably see some bigger sales compared to what happened with Digi. Digi is probably one of those cases where it's like a different group of people buying in.
Sure.
This Aliens, especially after that move yesterday, has a lot more of the flipper mentality people in there. Rare Lotto, I mean, here there's the different types. And I think there'll be some that like the ethereals will probably sell for more. Like they do have some different tiers here, which one thing we talk about a lot, like going back to doodles, where if you're clearly defining different tiers, then the likelihood of a rare lotto, it's not just for the one of ones. Oh, if you get one of these ethereals, like that'd be pretty cool too. And so people generally like pixel art as well. That's just another thing recently. Like obviously with Moonbirds, they're one of the bigger name pixel art projects, but I feel like I've just noticed that in general, when people see like Animetas way back when, like people were excited about how they looked, and I think because they were pixel, and these are aliens. Like we don't see too many alien projects per se. Like the Clonex you wouldn't really consider alien, but I do think that allows them to do a little different things with their traits. Like that, the Triton one has that like Cthulhu look to it. The Xenomorph with the big head. So I'm excited to see what they look like. Still debating if I want to get in on that lotto or not, but a lot more likely at this 0.5 price versus when it was up at 0.8 when I was looking previously. And then one thing I just wanted to mention, like the pseudo swap, a decent amount has been on there, but it's basically a place to have more liquidity where you could sell your item into the pool and you get paid what the pool price is, which is generally going to be a little lower than if you listed it at floor. So then when you're pooling together, like the fees go into that pool instead. So then people can go on the market and buy from the pool, and every time there's a purchase, when someone goes in or out of the pool, it readjusts the price, which is pretty cool because sometimes there's this arbitrage opportunity where people, I think it was less so in this aliens than based ghouls, which was a few weeks ago, another pixel project that a lot of people were excited about. But pseudoswap's kind of growing in general, but based ghouls went up to like 0.6, 0.7. And some of that has to do with these ARB pools. If there's a gap, it almost motivates someone more to buy if they see, oh, there's a 0.05 gap here. Let me buy here and immediately sell it into the pool and gain that 0.05. That's a purchase that just happened that now is bringing the floor up on OpenSea, and then you sell it into the pool, but you're not selling it on OpenSea, so the number of listings goes down. It's like a really interesting way that some of these projects have been moving up, and this happened a little with aliens as well. So that's something maybe I'll do a deeper dive or a video on one day once I get a little more familiar with the specific in and outs of it. But yeah, so aliens, this was the other big one, and then Moody's. Is that the other one we want to talk about, or we could talk about the Artbox one first?
Yeah, I think we have to hit it.
So, what would you say? This came out about as expected?
I mean, we have to call it a flop, right? I mean, there's no real way to sugarcoat this. So I think expectations were low for fake it till you make it. It's a word-based project, right? And I think because of that, it always had a pretty capped ceiling. But some of the previews, and we were talking about on the show on Tuesday, I was getting pretty fired up about it on the show on Tuesday because some of the outputs are, surprisingly clever and have like hidden meanings that come out from kind of like the random phrases that get pulled together. My problem with this set was the 700 supply was just entirely too high. There's too many just bad outputs or just, common phrases that no one really wants to buy, that didn't really have that much deep meaning to them. And it the market treated it accordingly. I think the X factor was always going to be, are whales going to come? Are there enough strong supporters in the Artbox community to pull this one up? And the answer was no. So this thing minted out about 0.33, by far the lowest mint out since I've been kind of back and following the Artbox market on a consistent basis. And we've seen several factory projects mint out higher than that. And then we see that the floor is below 0.2 already on the second day of trading with just 120 ETH secondary volume. I think that's the worst indicator or the worst metric tied to all of this, is that on the most liquid day in the last 2 months, where a set like Aliens traded 3,000 ETH across marketplaces, this curated drop from the top generative art platform only managed to do 120 ETH. So this will be the floor curated set for the foreseeable future, probably for a very long time.
Yeah, and I think they just missed on these phrases for the most part too. One thing you brought up the other day was there's too many of these to all be good. But I mean, even that one second from the right, like there's just too many words on that. You can't read it. Like you have to click in to be able to read it, and then you're not buying an NFT to read 12 sentences, like. But even some of these other ones, like "Hey girl, thinking my leaders," like I don't know. Some of these phrases just were misses for me. I think the normalized failures one is all right, but the problem is when you're doing generative stuff like this, it's hard to do it with words because I just think it's going to have a lot of weird phrases in there, and not even just like weird of what they mean or anything, but just grammatically they might be weird, and just I don't know. I think, as you mentioned, like there wasn't much FOMO for this. There wasn't much secondary action. People didn't get very excited about it, and it just was somewhat of a flop for that reason. So there was some of these the one word ones, I think, decent, and the ones that had different backgrounds seemed to sell more. But
I mean, even these, like I think the buyers, like unless they're just really happy to have the word "rich" on a purple background, it's something that they just hold in their wallet for the rest of time. Like I don't think these things are going to get resold for more ever. Just like unless the entire curated market down the line, just the whole floor price elevates, right? Then that would be the one case. So these are going to struggle. A little bit of a setback for Artbox, but maybe interest is going to start trending down, and the investment opportunities might be a little bit better, maybe in the near future, but some pain here in the short term.
Yeah, I think the just vibe one is kind of cool, but that's the problem, is like a lot of these, unless one of the phrases is something that you personally want to hold for a while, like as you mentioned, secondary value on these aren't all great. Like there's probably a just vibe.eth that's already taken though, right? But I don't know. To me, not the best for curated. This does seem more like a factory drop, but I think the big thing was too much supply. So
yeah,
we'll keep watching Artbox stuff because there are ones that hit here, and if there is more, if the volume in general is back up and there's more going around, then a lot of times we've seen it will flow into these art projects. So
yes. And real quick, Lou, on the art note, there was a few nice one-on-one sales to end this segment on a high note. So I think I'm over here. So Oxt Joe, he just goes by Joe on Super Rare. He's absolutely kind of a rising star in the digital art market right now. Also rising collector Protein Prosecco set his all-time high just this morning, 40.69 ETH, $77,000 sale here for this piece, I Hate You. For those who aren't familiar with Oxt Joe, all of his recent pieces have been in this kind of iconic blue background, red character style. So it's very easy to identify, that this is a Joe piece when you see it. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of the leading artists in digital
Yeah.
art right now. And, his pieces are rising fast in price. So, just a few months ago, these pieces were selling for 6 to 8 ETH to top collectors like Trill and Artifaction. Then they jumped to 16 for his last two, and now 40. So that's quite the leap. We'll see if he's able to maintain that price level, but absolutely doing incredibly well. He just did a recent Nifty Gateway drop as well for some who might have gotten in on that, where he auctioned off these 2 editions. It was actually a raffle, but then they went on the secondary market and he announced a burn event. So for anyone who has those, for the next 4 to 5 days, you'll be able to submit those on Nifty to burn them to get this one piece back, which I thought was pretty cool, and which will also reduce the supply of those. So big week for Joe. Alien Queen also set an all-time high here. Let me see if I can find the tweet. I had the tweet, but this piece here, Murders and Executions, sold for 16.9 ETH. Her prior all-time high sale was 10. So pretty big jump. Also all-time high in US dollar sale. So big for Alien Queen. She's starting to move up there. Also relevant for Rex Guy, or for DGen's Access Pass owners, rather, because she is working on a project, some kind of the PFP for those holders. And so the more that her one-of-one art is going for, the more that we could hopefully expect, these PFPs to trade for. So that might be a trade here in the near future as we know more about timing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And obviously she has those connections with the DGens and Mando and OSF, which they had a tweet earlier today that were saying, I don't even know if that was true or not, but they were talking about like 30 ETH a month for that podcast, which I thought was funny. But Cam wants to know what this cognition thing is from Aversano. So Justin Aversano, known for Twin Flames, the premier photography NFT. But do you know much about this cognition?
Not a ton. I saw some chatter that he's doing some type of IRL mint that you can register for and go mint in person. That might be what Cam's talking about, but yeah, I don't know the details on this one. We may have to cover that on a future show.
Yeah. Another thing that you'd mentioned with the showing that you can tell based on what the image is who the artist is. I think that's one thing that Grant Yoon now has kind of solidified as, where if you're looking at these pieces of artwork, like that alien one that we were looking at for aliens, like right away that's for Grant. And then in the Grails, there's one in there that people are like, oh, well, nice. One of them's going to be Grant. So I think that's one of the more bullish indicators, like this Alien Queen one. And nothing against her, though. Like, I'm wearing a Killer Acid hat right now, and there's a lot of art that is that style at this point. I think certain ones that got that originally, it's known, but for me, like, I'm trying to find an artist that's doing something different. It's the same with NFTs. Like, is this art look the same? Like the Digi one, like they come out very similar to a lot of other anime projects, but this Aliens one is somewhat different than other projects similar. So we'll see. Yeah, I went onto his page and I got a shirt and a hat from Killer Acid. It's been too long. Like it's one of the on the list that I've always kind of wanted. So I finally got it and got the hat in the mail earlier this week. So had to put it on for the show. But yeah,
Killer Acid. Yeah, Killer Acid
ahead.
also he set his all-time high. I think the collector, who's also a top kind of OG one-on-one art collector, set Killer Acid's all-time high at 42. I think just in the past week. So his pieces are going to start to become more unobtainable. I don't even know if any are really even on the market right now. But I think you're right. He's kind of led the way for this style of art. And when I think about Alien Queen, I think about her as like the female Killer Acid, which I think is a compliment to her. But it's not necessarily like a unique or standalone art set. But other than that, I think quickly, Lou, we got hit on the Pudgies, man. Like I've been following this. I haven't jumped in. They've been running. They're up to 2.7 ETH. A few pieces of news. So they announced this, partnership with, I'm blanking on the toy company name. It's like PMI Toys or something. But they're going to release these Pudgy toys. All the characters here are actually like licensed, and their IP is going to be used. So they're starting to do some things behind the scenes. It feels like they've kind of long-term bottomed and are on an uptrend. We've got Kaleo again from Crypto Twitter doing technical analysis and writing 20 post threads on these. This was, a fairly outlandish one. He's calling for $100,000 USD potential price on the Pudgy Penguins, which feels pretty high in this market. But are they set for a potential breakout? It sure seems that way. And of course, I think these threads are somewhat self-reinforcing because his audience gets into these and they follow. I think always the risk here is that crypto Twitter projects historically have done very poorly. Anecdotally, from my perspective, is because they're just it's a trader base who's much happier just to take 10 and 20% gains and exit. I think it was more normal in coin trading versus NFT trading, where some of us who grew up last year are more 10 to 20% is nothing. Like we're holding for 10 to 20x. So it's just a different mindset. I think because of that, crypto Twitter native folks are a lot more eager to list and sell, which kind of can stunt big run-ups. But man, Pudgies are hot right now. It's hard to ignore that. I think they're going to kind of come back into relevancy here soon.
Yeah, it's funny that we had this conversation on Pudgies versus Crypto Dick Butts when they were at both at 2, and both of them have been moving up since.
Yeah.
The official flipping of Pudgies over Cool Cats happened this week, and maybe Pudgies become the elite PFP again. As far as if you want to call it elite, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. A lot of these sub 5 that like range of PFPs, a lot of those are slowly moving up. Goblins are back at like 1.5. Those ones have been trending down. I don't think the Grumples turned out how maybe they were hoping.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those have gone slowly downward. These ones are reviving a little bit. So we've talked about this before, where what Pudgies are doing here is pretty rare.
Yeah.
Across projects, where a lot of these that came out long ago that went up and came back down this way, like I don't know. It's kind of interesting that they are back over 2.5 after they had that huge spike. There was all the controversy around them. They fell back down, but Kaleo is bringing them back. So
I mean, I think it speaks. I think it speaks to the product that people like it. And like I was a big Pudgy holder back in 2021. I sold off that bag, but I always liked the art quite a bit. And I think a lot of the reason people exited was everyone just didn't like that founding team. Like, they were known to be just kind of taking the money for themselves. They had 6-month reveal for the eggs, and then there was fishing rods and the eggs, just like hilariously, bad missteps. But now they've got new ownership. The base seems to be a little bit revitalized. And man, if these things get close to their previous all-time high and can get through it, like they might really go on a run at that point. They're Lindy now. If you can be Lindy after a year, they're getting close. They've proven that they can survive, a fall near zero and bounce back. And not many NFTs have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Oh wow, TJ is saying that there was the 22.
Wow.
That must have been one of the one of ones. Yeah, maybe that one that we were looking at that was 40, and they just accepted the offer.
Floor's down still, but let's see highest sale.
Floor's down, but when people see that 22 ETH sale, yeah,
there
so
it
this
is.
is one of those one of ones. See, it's just got so much going on, but this like a little ghost themed one.
It's a mythic. Only 5 of these, so we'll see how. Yeah, this was 10 minutes ago, so a few more of these that could really spike the market a bit.
Yeah, sort of confidence behind it. So cool. Yeah, I think one thing we want to do on this stream, because we don't really do much of it, but going to bring up some packs here. So Rainmakers, which some people might have seen before, where they have it's a DraftKings NFT game product, and I have a pack, and we were going to bring on another guy who was just in the chat, Cam, and he's also going to rip a pack. He looks away right now, so I guess I'll leave mine first. But so here we go. That came in here. Basically, Rainmakers is their DraftKings version of NFT meets fantasy football, and they had today a little starter pack that you could get for free. So if you haven't went on and gotten it yet, go for that, because I mean, who doesn't like a free pack that you can open? I don't think that you can sell any of these cards, but in the purchasable packs, they have some drops going on. There's going to be more drops leading up to the season, so you'll be able to get cards. You could go on the marketplace to get cards as well. So I ripped this first pack with Cam. How's it going over there?
Oh, what's up? I was busy pulling up my pack. It's nice to be on the stream with you boys.
Yeah. So you have any hot takes here? Is there sound playing or no?
Yeah, we hear it.
Is it too loud?
It's fine. It's exciting.
All right. So
I swear I've seen people's best card being the top left. So let's do that one last for the vibes.
Okay. So bottom right first then. Justin Tucker. So yes, there are kickers involved, but he is the best kicker. So I'll take that one. And I believe all of these are the core, which is basically the common cards. Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams. And Travis Kelce.
Nice.
That's a solid one.
That's hot.
Curtis Samuel. James Robinson. Joe Burrow.
That's a great pack.
Wow.
That is a great pack.
You know, the one thing with these packs is those are all guys that I've drafted in best ball. I know that most of the time all those guys go. I think Curtis Samuel goes in most leagues, right? So those all seem like playable players, which is really what you're hoping for with these packs. But if you want, you can start sharing it on the bottom. I'll bring it up, Cam.
I don't know how I'm gonna top that.
I don't know. A lot of these starter packs that I've seen have been usually see a few good players in them. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, you want people to have usable players, at least for the beginning of the season. You never know who's going to get hurt. Yeah, switch your tab over.
Oh, you see it? I'm so sorry. Like, it's my first time. Forgive me.
Stream. Yeah. Yeah, now I can see it.
All right.
Bring it up. So yeah, this is the setup. If you go onto the screen, there's going to be it's Marketplace up at the top, and then Rainmakers, and there should be a promo tab up there is where you'll find your starter pack.
All right, where am I starting? Pick one for me to start on.
I guess you just start bottom right, like mine was.
And work it over. All right. Let's see how it goes.
You got Justin Tucker.
Is this the same pack?
Come on.
Oh man, that'd be funny.
I'll take the same pack, Boston Scott. Jasicki. Yeah, have those tight ends.
Yeah, I think the way that this pack is designed is it's all playable. Like you get one quarterback, like the one tight end, one kicker.
Okay.
I think it's designed where you can play it as like this is a full team.
I like these. Gibson. Guy got any stacks here?
Yeah, so Boston Scott is your flex, I think is how it played the pack out.
All right.
So this should be a
quarterback. Yep. All right. Give me.
Who you want?
Yeah, give me Josh Allen. I want Josh Allen. I'll run him naked. I don't care.
Matt Jones.
I'll take your pack, but this is still solid.
Matt Jones had a good year last year.
Both decent packs, though, for sure. I mean, Lou definitely had the edge, but some solid action.
Yeah, have you gotten into Rainmakers at all, Tyler?
I've been loosely following it. I feel like
Yeah.
there's, like from my perspective, I feel like there's people who have just like have dove deep into it, and I feel like there's like a little bit of a learning curve,
Mm,
and I'm not gonna be able to compete with those who have already been thinking about the strategy. So maybe something like a strategy primer to help out
yeah.
like some of
Oh yeah.
the newbies or people who are just getting free packs. It might go a long way.
Yeah, I think we're planning on doing something like that for the people. Obviously, there's a lot going on. We had an article Logan at Lucky Trader did on Rainmakers. So if you're interested, check that out. It breaks out a lot of what are the different drops, what are the different tiers. So there's all of the ones we just did were the core tier, which is like your base level tier. And then like the Rainmakers, which is obviously the name of the game, but there's only 8 of each of those players. And so those are like the rarest of rares and the more expensive contests, basically. It's free to enter the contest, but those players are the most expensive. So if you want to consider entering by paying, but yeah,
And not
so
to get into it too much, but LT will definitely have some Rainmaker stuff coming, so
yeah,
stay tuned.
yeah, hopefully like depending on how many packs I end up getting, I'll probably try to rip some packs here and there if I get some good ones. But I don't know. I I want to play the marketplace. That's what I'm hoping for. So Cam and I have been sort of chatting it where it's like I'd rather go on and find a couple players that I think work well together. So
Yeah,
that's
even
probably how I'll do
Kalish
it.
talked about it on the stream yesterday, where he kind of compared it to Madden Ultimate Team, and that was my original DGen thing when I was 13. But the optimal play there was always buy the cards, not the packs, and
Yeah.
understand the risks that you're taking on in buying the packs, because you can get pretty low tier outcomes. But that's just the name of the game with these
Yeah.
type of things.
Yeah. You could get like you might see a quarterback wide receiver combo that's only $12 combined or something, but the pack is more than that. So there's options like that will probably come up. But yeah, I see you threw on your DraftKings hat for the stream today. But you have any NFT hot takes before we hop off, Cam, or what's your thoughts over in NFT world right now?
Oh, I am not as bullish as our certified longtime bull Tyler is here, but as I always say, I'd rather him be right than me. These higher ETH prices aren't making me feel too comfortable. If we could go sideways or even down a little bit on ETH price, I would be more excited. But if we break over 2 and manage to hold it, I'm definitely still worried about the short term price action for older collections.
In ETH terms, yeah. Yeah,
So
I guess
Cam,
we'll see.
you just made a recent sale, right? Are you thinking about rotating that back into anything? You gonna
Ooh.
stay on the sidelines? I feel like we gotta play a little bit of a game. Like what are the best buys
I
for
I wish it
Tim?
sold last week because I was real into the Pudgy narrative that everyone was kind of getting at. I think those things have social standing is my biggest factor with my NFT buys, and I think they have one of like the top tier social standings throughout NFT Twitter. But we're a little late on that wave. Maybe not. Maybe it goes parabolic. But I wish I would have gotten in earlier in that one. But I'm definitely going to be a little bit more active than I used to be now that I'm not bag holding, which I will not disclose what I sold.
Well, currently Pudgies cost like 5,000, and Kaleo says they have $100,000 upside. So there's still a 20x on
Yeah.
the table,
I'll say
according
I think he's
to
smarter than me, so maybe listen to him.
most would agree.
There's
But
only like 4 projects that have ever hit 100K floor.
PFP wise, yeah,
Yeah, because it's probably Punks, Apes,
Azuki's
Moonbirds,
got
Yeah,
there.
Zuki touched, right?
Mutants, I guess, hit that.
Yeah, I think
Mutants definitely did.
But I
So
don't
yeah, I
think
guess there's been a handful.
Doodles,
Mm-mm.
Clonex got close because they were in that 30 range, weren't they?
I want to say
They might
Clonix
have.
got to like 20, maybe mid 20s. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
don't
they
know if they
quite
ever
got
hit
there.
100K in USD. But yeah, like pretty rare for that to happen. But if it does, yeah, it's a 20x right now. If you
Yeah,
can,
they got rid of the problem on that team, so I think the sky's the limit for them because what's holding them back is no longer there.
Yeah. You see the buy-in from people that have been out this long, which one thing that we've talked about a lot in the show is a lot of attention goes to the new stuff. So what Pudgies is currently doing is already kind of different than normally see with this like comeback they're on. So we'll see. Maybe when we're here next Thursday, they'll be at 4 ETH and we'll be, talking about how we should have bought at 2.7, which, that happens a lot of these times. But there's a lot going on in these projects going into this weekend, which I think that high volume yesterday that started to make waves around Twitter. So I think sentiment wise, leading into the weekend, that's generally what drives a lot of the big time days in OpenSea is weekends and then action leading up to the weekend, positive sentiment going off of that. So we'll see if they'll be able to go through on the weekend. But cool. So yeah, thanks for Cam to hop on. You got the pack. We'll probably do some more pack opens in the future here and there. And then obviously thanks Tyler, and for everyone else, hope you have a good weekend. NFTs.